I am a murderer. 20 years ago, I had a huge fight with my best friend. At the time, I was consumed by anger and, when I left, I forgot to remind her about the chicken soup still simmering on the stove. The boiling soup overflowed and extinguished the flame. She didn't notice and collapsed at the dining table forever. After learning of her death, I sat by her body for 3 days and nights, shedding countless tears. For the next 20 years, I lived in remorse. Until one day, I obtained the diary she had written back then. The diary took me back to the past, again and again. The truth of that year gradually came to light. Here's your test. A sudden pain on my forehead. I subconsciously took the thing handed to me. It was a literature exam paper. At the top, it read, 2004 National College Entrance Examination, Literature, Analysis of Authentic Questions. My brain couldn't process it for a moment. Wasn't I just in the living room? Hey! Wake up, the exam is about to start. An impatient voice sounded in my ear. I looked up at the person and, upon seeing their face, my eyes widened in an instant. Christina? How did she get younger? I shot up from my seat. Dozens of youthful faces in the classroom turned to look at me in unison. I looked at these familiar yet unfamiliar faces. These were clearly my classmates from senior year of high school. A bold guess arose in my mind. I uncertainly grabbed Christina and asked, "What year is it today, what month and day?" Christina was startled by my sudden action. She stammered, "It's 2005, May 7th. My eyes suddenly lit up. I'm back 20 years ago. May 7th, 2005, was the day Stella died. I glanced at the clock in the classroom. 8 o'clock sharp. At this moment, only one thought remained in my mind. I must save Stella. I dropped the test paper and bolted out of the classroom. Christina's shouts echoed behind me. I didn't look back, just kept running forward. I remember very clearly, Stella was found dead at home around noon on May 7th. The forensic examiner determined the time of death to be between 8 and 10 in the morning. So now I still had a chance to save Stella. After climbing over the wall, I subconsciously reached for my phone to call the hospital and the police. But after fumbling through all my pockets, I only found 7 $1 coins. It was only then that I realized, during my high school years, I was very poor, so poor that I even had to skimp on meals. A hot commodity like a mobile phone was something I simply couldn't afford. Instead, I used the coins to make a call from the payphone at the convenience store across from the school. After hanging up, I randomly hailed a taxi on the street. "Driver, to Shine Apartments, please hurry, it's urgent." At my urging, the taxi driver sped all the way to the complex. When we were still a block away from the complex, I heard the sirens of ambulances and police cars. I suddenly had a bad feeling. A crowd had gathered downstairs from her apartment. I desperately squeezed through the crowd to the front. A gust of wind blew open the white sheet, exposing Stella's bloodless face to the sunlight. My breath caught. I was too late. Stella was dead. In my panic, I accidentally bumped into someone. The moment I saw the person clearly, my heart lurched. The senior year dean of discipline, Victor? What was he doing here? Before the question could even form in my mind, the next second I was back in the living room. An additional bleeding wound appeared on my ankle, which then slowly healed into an old scar. This wound was from when I accidentally got scratched climbing the school wall. I immediately picked up the diary from the floor, looking at the sentence on the cover with suspicion and uncertainty. Time travel diary, return to the past to make up for life's regrets. It really could take me back to the past. The number 4 below this line of text had changed to 3 and was emitting a strange glow. And the number on the cover represented the number of times I could travel. Meaning, there were still 3 chances to save Stella. I immediately examined the diary's cover several times but couldn't find a trigger for time travel. Then I turned my attention to the contents of the diary. The diary began on March 8, 20. I carefully flipped through page by page, my eyes aching from the words Stella had written. She chattered on in it, rambling about trivial daily matters. At first glance, it seemed like an ordinary diary. Until I reached the page dated December 9, 20. Someone save me. The shockingly red characters, a few words filling the entire page. This abnormality made my heart tremble. December 9, 2004, did something bad happen to Stella? The paper emitted a dazzling white light that engulfed me. It was pitch black before my eyes. I could feel that I was lying flat. After my eyes adjusted to the surroundings, I used the moonlight to realize I was now in a dormitory. In my sophomore year of high school, I applied for on-campus accommodation. My lower bunkmate was Christina. She only applied for accommodation in the second semester of senior year. On the day Stella died, she didn't want to share a room with a murderer like me and moved out overnight. But now she was still lying quietly in her bed, resting. To confirm the time, I got out of bed and gently shook Christina's arm. "Christina, what year is it, what month and day?" She turned over in a daze and said impatiently, "It's May 6, 20." My heart leaped with joy. The time of travel had moved up. To save Stella, I quietly climbed out of the dormitory from the second floor. When I climbed the school wall again, I looked at my smooth, fair legs, being extra careful this time, and didn't get scratched by glass shards. The convenience store was closed, and there wasn't a single car on the road. I could only race against time on my own 2 feet. I crossed street after street. Just as I was about to pass through the last alley, 2 young thugs blocked my way. One had yellow hair, the other green. They looked like high school students, but their eyes lacked the clarity of high schoolers. The one with yellow hair approached me slowly, his eyes lecherous and his tone frivolous. "Yo, little sister from No. 1 High, out so late. Want to play with us big brothers?" As he spoke, he even reached out to touch my face. Without a word, I kicked the yellow-haired guy between the legs. The yellow-haired guy immediately let out a pig-like squeal. While the green-haired guy was checking on the yellow-haired one, I left the alley and ran straight into Stella's neighborhood. 100 meters, 50 meters, 20 meters. I was getting closer and closer to her apartment building. She lived on the second floor. I saw the light on in her upstairs apartment. A figure flashing past the window made my heart pound even more excitedly. That was Stella. Stella was still alive. Just as I was about to step into the building entrance, my hair was suddenly yanked hard. A rough, foul-smelling hand clamped tightly over my mouth, dragging me into the nearby bushes. It was those 2 young thugs. I had forgotten that at this time, the neighborhood security wasn't strict. I could easily get in, and they could follow me and catch up. The yellow-haired guy whispered viciously in my ear, "Damn it, I'm doing you a favor by being interested in you, you ungrateful bitch." The green-haired punk said, "Yeah, teach her a good lesson." I bit down hard on the hand covering my mouth. The yellow-haired guy yelped in pain and let go. I had only run a couple of steps when my hair was grabbed again. The yellow-haired guy grabbed my hair and cursed, "Damn it, you're looking for death. Looking for death. Looking for death." A cold, glinting knife was in the yellow-haired guy's hand, stabbing me again and again. When the yellow-haired guy stabbed me the first time, the pain robbed me of the strength to resist. After a few stabs, I lay motionless. The green-haired punk thought I was dead. He pointed at me in terror and said, "Boss, she's not breathing." Startled by this, the yellow-haired guy's agitated mind instantly calmed down. The knife in his hand clattered to the ground. He let go of me and fled in panic with the green-haired guy. I lay sprawled on the ground, blood gushing from the wounds in my waist and abdomen. Enduring the pain, I crawled forward a couple of steps, then had no strength left. My trembling hand, covered in blood, reached out towards Stella's home. filled with unwillingness. Stella was right there, I was so close to succeeding. I hated myself for having such long hair in high school, otherwise, I wouldn't have been caught by those punks. Stella. I looked at the lit window of Stella's home, wanting to shout and tell her. Tell her to go to the kitchen and turn off the stove. But the sound coming from my throat was as weak as a mosquito's buzz, completely unable to reach Stella's ears. I was bleeding profusely, my consciousness gradually fading. Before I passed out, I saw Victor's figure again. He slowly walked into the apartment building where Stella lived. The moment Victor stepped into the building entrance, I was brought back by the diary. Along with me came the knife wound in my side. Blood instantly stained my white shirt. I was in so much pain I could barely stand. But then I suddenly remembered some things I had overlooked. Gas leaking in a confined space for 3 to 5 minutes will cause a person to lose consciousness, and 1 to 2 hours can be fatal. On May 6th, when Stella arrived home, I had just put the chicken in the pot. The time was around 5:30 p.m. Then we argued about studying, and shortly after, I left her house angrily. From the argument to leaving her house, it took about 10 minutes. Stella was alive and well when I left. The chicken was put in cold water, so the soup should have started boiling between 5:45 p.m. and 5:50 p.m. So, logically, Stella would have lost consciousness around 6 p.m., and the time of death would have been between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. The location of my second time travel was the dormitory. We could only return to the dormitory to rest after evening self-study ended at 10:10 p.m. The time I left school and arrived downstairs at Stella's place should have been after 10:30 p.m. At that time, Stella, who should have been dead, was still alive and well. But the forensic examiner who performed her autopsy gave the time of death as the next morning, that is, between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. on May 7th. Stella's time of death doesn't make sense. My eyes widened abruptly. Stella wasn't killed by me. The murderer was someone else. I can't rashly make a third trip through time. If all hidden dangers aren't removed, Stella will still die. As for who the murderer is, I've locked onto a suspect in my mind. Victor. But he died in prison 5 years ago. I can no longer force him to tell me what happened that night. Thinking about the reason for his imprisonment, my heart sank. 8 years ago, Victor was imprisoned for sexual assault. The victims were concentrated in our grade and the grade below us. I suspect Stella was also one of Victor's victims back then. To confirm my suspicion, after the wound on my side healed into an old scar, I immediately went to visit Calvin. He was Stella's father, a lawyer. I omitted the fact that I had time traveled and told Calvin my suspicions about Stella's cause of death, hoping he, as a family member, could check Stella's autopsy report from that year. But I forgot that in his eyes, I was the one who killed Stella. Everything I said was just an excuse in his eyes. He flew into a rage after hearing it, pointing at my nose and cursing, full of lies. You think you can exonerate yourself by blaming a dead person? Olivia, how can you be so malicious? To achieve your goal, you resort to anything, fabricating these baseless things, slinging mud at Stella. Do you want her to be gossiped about even after death? Get out. I was dragged out of the law firm by security guards and stood on the street, watching the passing traffic. Calvin didn't believe me, and I couldn't change his opinion of me in a short time. This path was a dead end. I sighed and found Henry's number in my phone contacts. It had been saved in my phone for 20 years without being dialed. I didn't know if it would still connect. Back then, me, Henry, Christina, and Ben were all very good friends. But later, because of Stella's death, they broke off with me. I still remember that day was after the college entrance exam. Christina stood among them, her eyes red, accusing me hysterically, "You killed Stella. You murderer. Why don't you just die?" Under the scorching sun, I felt a bone-chilling coldness radiating from every part of my body. We never saw each other again after that. Henry is now a forensic examiner, and his mentor was the very forensic examiner who issued Stella's autopsy report back then. As I was lost in thought, the call connected. Henry's low voice came through the phone into my ear. "What do you want, Olivia?" I was momentarily dazed. His tone was familiar, as if we had never broken off. I composed myself, took a deep breath, and quickly got to the point. "Henry, someone else killed Stella. I need you to help me look at Stella's autopsy report. I want to know if she was sexually assaulted before she died." After I finished speaking, Henry on the other end of the phone remained silent. I was afraid Henry, like Calvin, would think I was making excuses and wouldn't believe me, so I pleaded, "I'm not lying, please believe me, Henry." "Found it." Henry's voice paused, then continued, "The autopsy report shows that her hymen had an old tear. She had indeed been sexually assaulted." So he hadn't been silent just now, he was looking up the report from that year. And his words completely confirmed my suspicion. Stella had indeed been sexually assaulted before her death. Victor assaulted Stella on the night of May 6, 20 combined with the diary's content, December 9, 2004, should have been when he first made his move. Damn Victor. I clenched my fists in anger. Thinking about what Stella went through that year, I wished I could dig Victor out and cut him into a million pieces. Henry on the other end of the phone asked, "Olivia, do you know something? Who is the murderer?" I didn't answer his question. I just said thank you, Henry. After this is over, let's all 5 of us get together again. Then I'll give you all a surprise. I will bring Stella back. I gathered a lot of information on Victor. After thorough preparation, I opened the diary again. After the entry on December 9, 2004, Stella's diary was silent for half a month before a new record appeared. Her tone no longer had its former ease and joy. Watching her in pain and breaking down, yet trying her best to calm herself and actively find a way out. My heart ached. If only I had noticed these things back then. May 6, 2005, Victor, why are you doing this to me? Why me? Why did you choose me? Am I really trapped? Again, bright red characters. The content of this diary entry made me 100% certain that Victor was the main culprit behind Stella's death. The diary once again emitted a dazzling white light. My third time travel began. This time I appeared on the sports field. Christina was still beside me. I grabbed her and asked, "What year is it today, what month and day?" Christina clicked her tongue and shook off my hand. "Olivia, what's wrong with you, asking such a weird question?" The question was indeed strange, but I couldn't care less. I had to know what time it was now. I grabbed her by both arms and shook her back and forth. "Quick, tell me, what year, what month, what day?" It was as if she didn't tell me, I would shake her to death. Christina was uncomfortable being shaken and repeatedly begged for mercy. Okay, stop shaking, I'll tell you. Today is April 6, 20. I was overjoyed. The time of the second trip was earlier, and the third trip was actually a month earlier. Thank you. I gave a radiant smile. Christina was so scared she took several steps back. "Oh no, Stella, Olivia has studied herself stupid." "Really?" A familiar voice came from my side, making me stiffen. I slowly turned my head. The high school version of Stella stood before me, alive and well. After 20 years, I was face to face with Stella again. I couldn't help it for a moment, rushed forward, hugged her, and choked out, "Stella, long time no see." So long, it had been 20 years. Christina pulled Stella out of my embrace and said in terror, "Stella, did you see? She's really gone mad." Stella, however, propped her chin with her hand and said seriously, "It really has been a long time." Her expression turned serious, and her gaze made me shudder. Just when I almost thought she knew everything, she suddenly smiled, not seeing each other for a whole night is really too long. I knew it. Christina stomped her foot and shouted. Stella stood with her hands on her hips, laughing so hard she couldn't straighten up. Her laughter was very infectious. Somehow, I started laughing with her. Only Christina covered her ears in pain and gritted out each word, "You too, that's enough." Stella and I exchanged a look, and amidst Christina's exasperated cries, we laughed even more unrestrainedly. If the great actress doesn't leave now, she'll be late for class. With that, Stella and Christina flanked me, linking their arms with mine, and pulled me towards the classroom. I didn't resist, letting them pull me along. This moment was actually the most joyful I had felt in 20 years. I linked my arm with Stella's and secretly made a resolution. "Stella, this time I will save you no matter what." I sent an anonymous letter reporting Victor for embezzling school equipment funds. Half a month later, he was taken away by the police for investigation. I obtained this evidence while organizing materials for Victor's case after my second trip through time. It was enough to keep him locked up for several years. After Victor was arrested, no one could harm Stella anymore. The heavy stone in my heart finally lifted. On April 24th, Ben had his sports exam. The exam location was a stadium on our side. It was a Sunday, and the school happened to be on break. We wanted to go along and cheer for him. Unfortunately, non-staff personnel were not allowed into this exam. So the four of us quietly climbed onto the rooftop of the mall next to the stadium, from where we could overlook the entire stadium. Ben was wearing a bright fluorescent green top. Even if we couldn't see his face, we could tell which track he was on. The starting gun fired, and the competitors began to run. Ben left everyone far behind. Christina jumped up and down, cheering, "Go Ben!" Stella watched the track silently, a faint smile on her face. I didn't miss the pain in her eyes. Her diary recorded her mood for that day. When she saw that no one could catch up to Ben, she hated herself for not running fast enough that day, for not being able to escape the harm. But how could she be blamed for this? The fault lay with the person who committed the evil act against her. After coming through, I didn't dare ask her specifically what happened on the night of December 9th. I was afraid that if I asked, her heart, which had finally managed to recover, would collapse again. Similarly, I would forever keep this secret for Stella. She didn't need to live under the strange gazes of others. Time would heal everything for her. After Ben finished his exam, he came to the rooftop to meet us. He smiled brightly. I passed. His bronze skin made his teeth look particularly white. Christina shrieked and quickly ran up to Ben. "Ben, you're too amazing. Getting into college is a sure thing." Christina chattered about where to celebrate later. Stella, infected by her joy, showed a smile. Henry dodged Ben's attempts to wipe his stinky sweat on him. "It's so good." Just as I was feeling emotional, Christina suddenly yelled at me, "Olivia." The next second, she ran in front of me, staring intently. "There are less than 60 days until the college entrance exam. In the time remaining, you must raise your grades back into the top 50 of the year. No, into the top. All 5 of us are going to the same university, no one can be missing. So Olivia, you must improve your grades. If you can't do it, the few of us can help you study." Behind Christina, Stella, Henry, and Ben nodded in extreme agreement. Several people slowly surrounded me. I couldn't help but take a few steps back. A 37-year-old experiencing the tense life of a high school senior again? Don't abuse the elderly with studying. But facing them, I couldn't bring myself to refuse and could only nod in resignation. Under their supervision, I began to enjoy the good life of a high school senior. Every morning starting at 4:50, Christina would drag me from the dorm to the cafeteria to study. Breakfast at 6, morning self-study at 7, classes begin at 8, lunch at 11, nap at 12:4 classes in the afternoon starting at 13, dinner at 17, evening self-study from 18:30 until 22:10. These 3+ hours were divided into 4 segments by the 4 of them, each taking turns to supervise me. The day was fulfilling and joyful. I gradually let my guard down. Until May 5th, on my way back to school, I was hit on the back of the head with a stick. I lost consciousness immediately. When I woke up, my hands and feet were tightly bound with ropes. My first thought was that I had been kidnapped. I slightly opened my eyes, and my heart jumped when I saw my captor clearly. The person who kidnapped me was actually Victor. But shouldn't he be at the police station? Seeing me awake, Victor sneered, "You're surprised I got out, aren't you? Olivia, you've caused me so much trouble." As soon as he said this, how could I not understand? He already knew I was the one who reported him to the police. I sized up my surroundings and realized the chances of escaping on my own were slim to none. Shouting for help wouldn't work either. Factories are usually in the suburbs, and abandoned factories are even more deserted. It might even anger Victor. I could only hope that when class time came, Stella and the others would realize I wasn't at school and call the police to find me. To buy time, I absolutely would not admit it was me. I said innocently, "Victor, what are you talking about? I don't know anything. Did you get the wrong person?" This sentence directly provoked Victor. He waved his knife emotionally, "Liar. It was you. You made me lose my job, my wife wants to divorce me, and I have to go to jail. Everything I have is ruined. I'll kill you." Hearing the police sirens, Victor stabbed me without a second thought, then doused me with gasoline. The moment the police broke down the door, he lit the fire. I was engulfed in flames. I saw Victor being restrained by the police, and saw several officers rushing towards me. Before I fainted, I thought I was definitely going to die, but I woke up in the hospital. As consciousness returned, the burning pain on my body gradually intensified. The fire Victor started left me with 30% burns all over my body. The burns were mainly on my left cheek and chest. That wasn't even the worst of it. The most serious was a stab wound to my lung. Now, every breath I took felt like needles pricking me. "Olivia, how are you? Are you feeling better?" Christina, her eyes red, rushed to my hospital bed. Henry and Ben were also there, but Stella was nowhere to be seen. I struggled to force out 2 words from my throat, "Stella." Christina's tears streamed down her face. Even Henry looked troubled. Their expressions filled me with panic. I endured the pain in my body, reached out my right hand, and tightly gripped Henry's arm, pleading, "Tell me, please." Henry lowered his gaze slightly. "Stella died this morning. The police said it was gas poisoning." My pupils constricted slightly. "Stella died, how is that possible?" I endured the pain in my chest and asked, "Today is what month, what day?" "May 7th. As soon as Henry's voice fell, I felt a familiar suction force. The white light dissipated, and I was back in my bedroom. The phone on the table buzzed, Henry's name flashing repeatedly on the screen. But the intense pain in my body left me no time to attend to it. Because the injuries from the 3rd trip through time began to manifest as soon as I returned to this era. A burn that ran across my left cheek and down to my entire chest, along with the wound in my lung, slowly formed, then slowly healed, rapidly undergoing 20 years of change on my body. I don't know how long this process lasted. The buzzing of the phone had long stopped, and the sky outside the window had turned a fish belly white. I could clearly feel my body becoming weaker. Every breath I took felt like my lungs were tearing apart. Traveling through time 3 times, paying such a price, and still failing to save Stella. I couldn't understand. This time I didn't go to her house to make chicken soup, and I prevented Victor from appearing at Stella's house on the night of May 6th. Why did Stella still die of gas poisoning? What if Victor wasn't the murderer? Thinking of this possibility, my scalp tingled instantly. Her death seemed to be shrouded in a thick fog that I couldn't dispel. At the same time, I understood that I needed help. I couldn't uncover the truth alone. I got up and staggered out of the house. In an alley near the neighborhood, I easily found Christina, completely covered by a raincoat. She recoiled a few steps in terror. "How did you know I was here? What happened to your face?" I grabbed her arm and said with an expectant look, "Christina, help me save Stella. I can travel to the past and save Stella, but I need help. Christina, please help me." Christina's pupils constricted slightly, those strange memories appearing in my mind. "Is it because of you?" She said that her memories of certain periods had split into two, the original memory and the memory created by my time travel. This surprised me because after traveling twice, other people's memories hadn't changed. If Christina had these two sets of memories, did Henry and Ben have them too? Christina's expression hardened. "What do you need me to do?" Without time to think about the reason, I immediately said, "I need you to get Ben and Henry to meet at the Grand Hotel opposite No. 1 High School." 2 hours later, Henry and Ben, having received the notification, arrived at the private room in the hotel. Looking at the two of them rushing in, I felt a mix of emotions. After Stella died, I never dared to hope for a chance to reunite with them. Henry was shocked when he saw my face clearly. "Olivia, your face." I touched the scar on my face from the burn and said nonchalantly, "Don't worry about it. You two also have a few extra layers of memories, right?" Henry and Ben nodded. I told them everything about the 3 time travels and what I had found out. After hearing this, Henry said, "Whether Victor's suspicion is cleared still depends on knowing what he was doing at Stella's house that night. Maybe we can find a new breakthrough." Stella's death was suspicious, so we reported the case again. The police intervened to investigate. Upon investigation, Victor's visit to Stella's house at that time was actually a task assigned by the school. The school sent Victor to tell Stella that the scholarship had been given to a student from a poor background. And at that time, another teacher also went to Stella's house. He drove and waited outside the neighborhood. According to his testimony, Victor came out in about 10 minutes. "Henry, such a short time really isn't enough to do anything." "Ben, could it be because of money?" "Unlikely, it was only a few $1,000s. Although it was a lot at the time, it wasn't a huge sum for Stella's family." The investigation stalled. Too much time had passed, and there was very little information left about Stella. Calvin, as her guardian, was uncooperative. He blamed us for ruining Stella's reputation and gave us the cold shoulder. Until a woman named Julia approached Ben, specifically requesting him to take her case. When I saw Julia, I felt a strange sense of familiarity. She was very young, only in her 20s. She wanted to sue Calvin for using his position to coerce and intimidate her into a sexual relationship. She was so agitated while speaking that her body couldn't stop trembling. Ben looked at us, nodded, and agreed, "I'll take this case." I poured her a glass of warm water to calm her down. "Don't get excited, Ben will help you. Tell us what happened." She thanked us repeatedly. After calming down, she told us how Calvin had forced her, and later how he mentally controlled her to continue this twisted relationship. After finishing, she hesitated and then said, "Ben, I suspect there's another victim. Every time we were intimate, he liked me to cover the lower half of my face. Once, he got drunk and became terrifying. He choked me and yelled, 'Stella, don't run away. I love you. I love you, and you should love me too, shouldn't you?' But I feel like the Stella he was talking about wasn't me. He seemed to be looking at someone else through me." As Julia spoke, she gestured on her own face. I suddenly understood where the initial sense of familiarity came from. When Julia covered the lower half of her face, she looked strikingly similar to Stella back then, about 9/10 alike. She gave us a photo album and left. The 4 of us silently looked at the photo album on the table. Calvin had assaulted a girl who looked similar to Stella. When he was with Julia, was he calling out Julia or Stella? In fact, Calvin was not Stella's biological father. Stella's biological father was an alcoholic who would beat Stella and her mother every time he got drunk. It was around that time that Calvin appeared. He represented Stella's mother in court. After Stella's mother divorced, she naturally got together with him. After marriage, he treated Stella's mother well, treated Stella as his own daughter, and even after Stella's mother died, he was willing to continue raising her. To find out the truth, we opened the diary. Even though we were prepared, seeing the thick stack of photos, all voyeuristic shots of Stella from various angles, it was still difficult to hide the sadness in our hearts. Christina slammed her fist on the table, her face already covered in tears. Bastard, how could he do this to Stella? Stella always respected him, admired him. She even said she wanted to be a great lawyer too. How could he do it? In the first photo, Stella stood by the roadside, soaking wet. Her eyes, visible through her damp, messy hair, were full of fear. The thin fabric of her clothes clung to her body, outlining her figure completely. Photo after photo bore witness to Calvin's disgusting desires. My stomach churned, and I couldn't help but dry heave. Each photo was also marked with a date. The first photo was dated July 9, 2002. At this time, there were still 2 years before Stella's parents divorced. He had set his sights on Stella earlier than we thought. After he married Stella's mother, the voyeuristic photos became even more audacious. The last photo, dated December 9th, was the first time Calvin appeared in a picture. More precisely, it was a part of his body. In the photo, his hand was tearing Stella's clothes. Stella was pinned down by him, her eyes full of despair. My heart ached. I had thought that Stella leaving her abusive biological father was an escape from suffering, but I didn't expect her to fall into another wolf's den. Recalling the contents of the diary, after December 9, 2004, Calvin's name never appeared in the diary again. I suddenly remembered that in the first-time travel, besides Victor, Calvin was also present at the scene. Stella moved out of Calvin's house at the beginning of 2005. The journey between their two homes was about 40 minutes. Calvin appeared downstairs at Stella's place too quickly, so quickly it was as if he had just left Stella's house that morning. 3 days later, the four of us went to the Grand Hotel again and booked a private room. I took out the diary and was about to flip through it when Henry grabbed my other hand. I looked at him, puzzled. He explained, "The first 3 times you traveled, you were seriously injured. We don't know what the cost of the 4th time will be. I want to see if we can travel to the past with you if there's physical contact." I nodded firmly. "You can't come with me. I will definitely save Stella, no matter the cost, even if it means death." Christina clamped her hand over my mouth, stopping my next words, and said through gritted teeth, "Shut up. You must bring Stella back, and you must come back alive. All 5 of us, not one less, do you hear me?" Only after I nodded did she release my mouth and place her hand on my shoulder. Ben silently placed his hand on my other shoulder. After they had done this, I opened the diary on the table. Only the last page of the diary remained, with only one sentence written on it. May 7, 2005, "I'm sorry, I can't hold on anymore." Still in bright red font. The paper once again emitted a dazzling white light. I was back in the senior year classroom again. The bright lights overhead told me it was evening self-study time. I was about to grab Christina, who was sitting in front of me, to ask the time, but then I met her eyes. Henry and Ben also looked towards me at the same time. The moment our eyes met, I knew they had come back with me. I immediately grabbed the arm of my deskmate and asked, "What year, month, and day is it today?" My deskmate was startled and said blankly, "It's 2004, December 9th. My eyes lit up. Today was Stella's 18th birthday, and also when Calvin first made his move. We looked at each other and understood the meaning in each other's eyes. The next second, the 4 of us rushed out of the classroom, climbed a tree, and scaled the wall in one smooth motion. Calvin's house was a 2-story Western-style building. We had just entered the first floor when we heard sounds of an argument coming from the second floor. "Stella, I love you, and you love me too, right? You should love me. Bastard, let go of me." We rushed upstairs, followed the sound to Stella's room, and I kicked open her door. She was being pinned down on the bed by Calvin. Her face, full of despair, showed a glimmer of hope when she saw us. Henry and Ben quickly rushed forward and kicked Calvin away. Christina took off her school uniform jacket and draped it over Stella. She hugged the trembling Stella and comforted her. "Stella, we're here to save you. Don't be afraid, it's all over." Looking at Calvin, who had been knocked out by Henry and Ben, the thought that Stella, an excellent student with a bright future, had everything ruined by his selfish desires, made me lift my foot and stomp hard between his legs several times. He was jolted awake by the pain. I sneered, "Calvin, your thoughts are filthy, you can't control your desires. I'll destroy this thing for you first." As I spoke, the force in my foot increased. Calvin's miserable screams instantly filled the entire room. "Christina, good stomp, stomp him to death." Henry and Ben silently retreated to the back. Stella said worriedly, "Olivia, stop hitting him. What if he tries to retaliate against you?" Christina reassured her, "Don't worry, we'll send him to prison and make sure he never gets out. But he hasn't actually done any substantial harm to me. That alone isn't enough." Stella's worry wasn't unreasonable. Insufficient evidence wouldn't be enough to deal with Calvin. I stared at Stella and asked, "Have you ever thought that your mother's death wasn't due to a heart attack, but was intentional?" Stella's pupils constricted. Stella's mother had always been in good health, yet she died of a heart attack within a year of marrying Calvin. And their family had no history of heart disease. This was no accident. With our support, Stella sued Calvin for murder. Upon investigation, in the summer of 2002, Calvin happened to meet Stella. From then on, he began to plot to possess her, which is why he helped Stella's mother with her divorce case. He intentionally seduced Stella's mother, showing her great care and concern. After Stella's mother divorced, she naturally married him with Stella. A year later, he used snake venom to poison Stella's mother, faking a heart attack. Next, it was Ben's turn. He put all his effort into arguing the case logically and clearly. The lawyer we hired felt useless. A student seemed more like a lawyer than he did. Calvin was sentenced to death in the first trial. He was not convinced and continued to appeal. The second trial upheld the original verdict. On May 6, 2005, the day of Calvin's execution, we crowded into Stella's rental apartment and celebrated late into the night, so late that Stella personally kicked us out to go to sleep. The few of us walked out of the apartment building, and by tacit agreement, no one left. We stood downstairs waiting from night until day. On the morning of May 7, 2005, Stella walked out of the apartment building, bathed in sunlight. She didn't know we had waited all night, thinking we were there to wait for her to go to school. "Sorry to keep you waiting." I smiled. We didn't wait long. Just as we were about to step into the school gate together, a suction force suddenly immobilized us. I told Henry and the others not to be afraid. This was a sign that we were going back. We stopped resisting and let the suction force take us away. Finally, I shouted toward Stella, "Stella, how about we meet every year on May 7th in private room 507 at the Grand Hotel?" Stella turned back with a smile and mouthed something. We didn't hear her answer. The white light brought us back. In the private room, we looked at each other speechlessly. After a long while, Christina sighed and said, "Today is May 7th. I said, "Yes, May 7th, 20 years later." From the hallway outside the door came the sound of high heels clicking on the floor. We stared at the door, not daring to breathe. The door was suddenly pulled open from the outside. The next moment, 38-year-old Stella walked into the private room with a smile. "Wow, you guys are so early." Stella's story. On the night of May 6, 20, my high school dean of discipline, Victor, came to my home. He came to tell me that the scholarship money I won from a competition had been reallocated by him to a student from a poor family. Why should my things be given to someone else? But he said, "Your family is better off, she needs it more than you. This is the school's decision. You already have a privileged family background, you can't have everything and block other people's paths." But he didn't know, I wanted to escape that so-called home every moment. Victor finished speaking and turned to leave, giving me no chance to argue. I sat on the sofa in a daze. A few minutes later, there was another knock on the door. I thought Victor had changed his mind and the money was still mine. With hope burning in my heart, I opened the door, only to be greeted by that demon, Calvin. He smiled gently, but his words sent a chill down my spine. "Stella, how does it feel to have your hopes dashed?" He knew everything. So my plan to go to school out of town to get away from him, he had known about it all along. To control me, he cut off all my financial resources when I moved out. I had no money to work part-time, but I would be fired after just a few days. I knew it was him, but I was powerless to resist. Until the school selected students to participate in a competition, which came with a cash prize. This prize money was enough for me to get through the final days of senior year. As long as I went to a university far away, I could escape all of this. This was my last hope. I was so close, just a little bit more and I could have escaped his clutches. Why do this to me? Warm tears welled up in my eyes. Calvin, however, curled his lips. "Stella, you can't escape. Be good. Naughty children get punished." His expression suddenly turned ferocious. He grabbed my hair and dragged me into the room. My clothes were torn open by him. My tears, my cries of pain, became his stimulants. It wasn't until 2 in the morning the next day that he finally got up, sated. As he left, he looked at me coldly. "Stella, don't even think about leaving me. You can't escape." I couldn't escape. I stared at the dark ceiling, despair and hatred intertwining in my heart. I hate Calvin for doing this to me. I hate Victor for embezzling my money. I felt like a fish caught in a large net woven by Calvin, unable to escape. All my struggles became a joke. As dawn broke, I suddenly remembered the chicken soup Olivia had made for me. I had tasted it, and it was delicious. But I was harsh with her yesterday. I wonder if she's angry with me. Looking at the cold chicken soup on the gas stove, I turned the flame to high. The chicken soup slowly boiled, and the overflowing soup extinguished the gas flame. "I'm sorry, I can't hold on anymore." After death, my soul did not dissipate. I didn't know why. Later, I understood. I wasn't the only one who died on May 7, 20. I watched Olivia live like a walking corpse for 20 years out of guilt. Christina, who originally dreamed of becoming a big star, became an alcoholic with mental problems. Henry, who was supposed to continue his research in mathematics, became a forensic examiner instead. Ben, who had the potential to become a sports champion and bring glory to the country, followed his family's arrangements and became a lawyer. Only then did I realize how wrong my decision to easily give up my life was. When I saw Christina in a raincoat in the alley, raising a sharp knife at Olivia, I was frantic. I subconsciously stood in front of Olivia, screaming at the top of my lungs, "No, Olivia didn't kill me." Christina couldn't hear. She held the knife and passed through my intangible body, again and again. Olivia gradually stopped moving. My consciousness dissipated along with it. When I opened my eyes again, I had surprisingly returned to May 7, 2005. I secretly resolved that this time, I must live on bravely and ensure Calvin received the punishment he deserved. But this time, there were many new things in my mind. Olivia and the others had actually traveled back from the future to the present to save me. But before I could even recognize them, they went back. I knew we would eventually meet in the future. This time, it was my turn to wait for them for 20 years.